So a type definition, on the other hand, is supposed to be contained inside another container, which is the root container for all your project files. And that root container is the namespace. The namespace is the root container for all applications. The namespace, when you create your project in Visual Studio, a C# project in Visual Studio, what Visual Studio does is to create a default namespace which is going to have the same name as the name which you enter to give to the name of your project. Meaning, in our project we have created a project with First Console app. This is the name that we entered in the new project dialog box when we were creating this application, and the Visual Studio created a namespace with that name. And then Visual Studio, because understands that it is required that each and every application must contain an application object. An application object is the type which contains the main method. The main method, it's an entry point. That is where CLR, which is the runtime of the .NET framework, starts executing your application. Each and every application must have an entry point, must have where the CLR is going to start executing that application. An application without an entry point, will not be executed by the CLR, because the CLR does not know. In fact, it's going to complain that there was no method signified as the entry point. Sorry about that. So Visual Studio will create the code definitions for the types that it understands that they've got to be there in your applications, and then leave out the rest to you, which will be the code which you will add to your application, and it will be containing the logic which will be describing your application.